Welcome to You Need Sourdough's Guide to Proofing. This is an underproof dough. You can see by the bowl here, the red line represents the point the dough was at when we first mixed the ingredients together. It has only risen between 10 to 20%. This is a correctly proofed dough. You can see here it's risen 30 to 50%. We're pretty much bang on the 50% rise here. And this is an overproof dough. You can see this has been left for way too long. Now I'm going to show you what each of these doughs look like throughout the remainder of the sourdough process, starting with shaping our dough. The underproof dough is quite stiff, not very stretchy, and can't build as much of a smooth surface when pre-shaped. The well-proof dough is much easier to work with, and you can see it's built a nice smooth tension on the top of the dough. The overproof dough is so hard to work with, it's extremely sticky and very difficult to pre-shape, as it keeps sticking to the bench scraper and hands. At this point you can do a little poke test. The underproof dough won't sink in as much and will be quite quick to bounce back. The well-proof dough, you'll be able to press your finger in and feel some air, and it will take a little longer to inflate back. And the overproof dough, your finger will sink in quite a lot, feel a lot of air, and sometimes will be quite sticky. Now when we go to shape the dough for our banneton, the underproof dough doesn't stretch very much, and it shrinks to keep a smaller shape. This is because the gluten networks haven't had time to relax. The well-proof dough is easier to stretch out, and again it forms a nice amount of tension on the surface, and you can also see a few bubbles throughout the dough. The overproof dough is very sticky, it's hard to work with and doesn't hold its shape very well. You'll also be able to see quite large air bubbles. These are all going into the fridge to proof overnight. Alright, these are now ready to be baked. I have taken these out of the fridge and you can test your dough again by performing another poke test. Our underproof dough is actually performing quite well here. Since we did a secondary proof in the fridge, it may have caught up a little, so the poke test here shows characteristics of a fairly well-proofed dough. Again, you're looking for that dough to bounce back slowly, and that overproof dough is still very filled with air and still sticky. Now let's look at how they go when they're scored. The underproof dough is quite solid, the dough holds its shape and it doesn't relax much. This is the well-proof dough. It's quite easy to score and the dough relaxes a little but not too much. And the overproof loaf, again very difficult to work with, and as you can see it's not holding its shape at all. Here they are fresh out the oven. You can see that the underproof dough still actually looks quite good, but I'll show you the difference on the inside. Cutting into the underproof dough now, and you can see here in the crumb we've ended up with really small holes, a few random large ones, and a very dense dough. Now for the well-proof dough. It's a really light and airy crumb and the dough isn't as gummy. It feels softer and has nice air holes. And the overproof dough here didn't rise in the oven at all. It's very flat, the crumb is quite random with lots of large holes, and the texture is more sticky or gummy. It's also got a very pronounced sour flavour as it's been over fermented. And here's a final close-up of all the loaves. We've got the overproof, the underproof, and a pretty perfect proof. Hopefully you found this helpful. The key point here is that the success of your loaf starts all the way back at the beginning when you first mix your ingredients. Take note of where the dough's starting point is, and then continue the bulk fermentation until you hit that sweet spot of a 30 to 50% rise in the dough. The timing of this will change depending on the temperature in your household, so it may not be the same time frame for you all year round. Really look for those visual cues, and if you do this, you will achieve success. Any questions, we're here to help. Reach out in the comments below via our Instagram or Facebook, or join our community of sourdough bakers in our ever-growing Facebook group. Happy baking!